Hello, YouTubers, and welcome back to another episode of The Grandstand here on the Ohio Patriot Education Network YouTube channel. I'm, as always, your host, AR the Ohio Patriot. And for today's episode, which will be the last stream of the month, it's pretty much going to be a free-for-all for, I don't know, 20 minutes, half hour. We got about 8 minutes or so left on the actual 20-hour thing right now for the free side, but as far as I'm aware, as long as these are going, it can go as long as it wants to, honestly. So, yeah, pretty much that's where we're going to be at right now. Just bullshitting here for a little while is what it is. Some different topics, different, things I want to talk about is what it is. Which will mostly just be a bunch of BS. Obviously, for those that were on Rumble last night, never had a chat fire off with Honda and the boys. Apparently his night or his afternoon/evening got away from him is what it was, and that's why he didn't do a chat last night, which kind of sucks. It would have been nice to have a chat with everybody, but then he did do a little Discord thing, and it was myself, him, and Corey were talking about some stuff. And obviously for those that haven't checked it out yet, who haven't seen the post on the Twitter account there, or on my personal Facebook page, we posted a GoFundMe link because obviously Corey is trying to pay for his medical bills now. And he needs money. That's what it is. He's a good dude. Unfortunately, fucking state of Texas, nobody wants to hire him because of the brain tumor and stuff. And I think it's I forget what Texas is called. It's like a right to work state, or refuse to basically hire people. What it is, kind of state is what it actually is at the end of the day. And yeah, nobody will take the chance on him because of the benign brain tumor in his head. So, yep, he's just trying to pay for these medical bills, and I don't blame him. It's ridiculous. It's a fucking racket what it's become of our country and our system right now when it comes to medical debt and just debt in general. Debt slavery is a fucking terrible thing in this nation and has been forever. I know that for a fact firsthand from the bullshit fucking debt I'm in right now for college student loan debt is what it is, even though I have no degree to look at right now or use to actually get a job of any kind, and yet I still owe these cocksuckers almost $15,000 right now, which is fucking ridiculous, because especially how they fucked me over back in those days. If you don't know that story, I'm going to tell a story real quick from right here. So basically, I decided, I kind of do blame family members for this whole thing in my life, because if they hadn't been pressuring me at the time, I would have just said, and of course we didn't know I was autistic back then either, is what it was, so that would have been a whole different thing, I think, if we had known that shit back in 2000. Trying to think, I went down to Columbus now, 2009-ish or so, into 2010 almost is what it was. It was September 2009, I think, is when I went down there. And yeah, if I had known, 14 years ago what I know now, so I was 24 at the time. If I had known that shit, I would have never gone down there. I mean, looking back, obviously I have memories of the place. I have memories of the city. I made friends down there, obviously, for a little bit of time, and it was nice overall. It was an interesting experience, I'll say the least, because it's coming from a very sheltered small town where I grew up here, and then moving to a major city like that, and then learning how the real world actually is what it is. It was a huge change. Unfortunately, it was a huge culture shock, and yeah, basically, if I had known what I know now, I would have had to have a full-time job going to school down there as a full-time student, and I would have basically failed out a long time before I did, because I would have never been able to do both things at the same time. Really, if I had known, again, the autism and stuff like that, I would have had direct contact with one of the professors down there that was supposed to be a advisor person for the students, is what it was, for my degree path. And unfortunately, that didn't happen until it was too late, basically. And because of that, it was basically just a clusterfuck, is what it was in general. Essentially, what it is that, I set up 15 grand. Basically, I took out 6 or 7. So the rest of that is essentially all fucking accrued interest at this point. So you're talking about $8-something thousand of accrued interest right now, which is absolute bullshit entirely. And that's the thing, right? I have no problem, if I could just pay back the principal and stuff like that. Obviously I could figure that out somehow is what it would be. but not when you tack on like double the amount of fucking money. Like that's just unconstitutional as fuck, dude, and just complete. Again, it goes back to the debt slavery thing. It's nothing more than to make poor people in this country into fucking modern day slaves for the goddamn establishment and the fucking scumbag ass Democrats and rhinos in power constantly, the career politicians of the world, and their corporations that they're in bout to is what it is. And that is the biggest problem with our country right now, honestly, in general, is all that kind of shit. The crony capitalism, the fucking Marxist fucking garbage behind it, et cetera, et cetera. And my biggest problem with general is, looking at that and looking at the way I got fucked over. Basically, what happened was, obviously, I was on this path. I was trying to go into computers because my brother was like, "Oh yeah, you should go into some IT thing or whatever the case be." And I was like, "All right, cool, I will." And not even thinking about my autistic mindset back then, because I know I was autistic, obviously. And I did well to begin with, obviously, in all the prerequisite courses that I had to take. But the problem was, in most cases, I was taking prerequisites to actual courses. And it was sometime between passing all the prerequisites easily, going to the actual prerequisites needed for my classes, and then finally getting into the beginning of those classes is where I got overwhelmed, is what it was, and realized at some point in there as well that I'm like, I don't really want to do this anymore. Like, I don't really want to do this particular degree path anymore. But I already had like enough credits for like other stuff, and I'm like, I want to go to something else now. And unfortunately, when I did that, it basically, they put me in a situation where I had already failed a class for my IT requirements, is what it was, because the class was hard as fuck, is what it was, and it was like 8 o'clock in the goddamn morning. And the problem with me is, in general, a night owl. I like to sleep in a lot, and I don't do well before noon, honestly, or like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, really, is what it is. And if you have me basically early ass AM hours, I'm not gonna be fully functioning at that point in my mind, in the actual time frame of the day, is what it is. And my mind is obviously like, kind of afraid is what it would be then. And the problem was, the only time this class was had was like 8 or 8:30 in the morning, is what it is. And so that's, I believe, the reason why I failed to begin with. And so I had to retake the damn class. And the problem was with that one was I ended up failing that class a second time during that whole thing. And at the same time had to drop a second class because of the way that my schedule was set up. It was a giant clusterfuck of basically, oh, you have to run all the way across the fucking campus. That is impossible to do in like 2 minutes to get to the next class you have, or you're going to be late for that class by like 5 minutes every single time. And then it's basically rush out of that class and have about another 5 minutes or so to run all the way back across the fucking campus to your third class of the day. Because unfortunately, the way these super fuckers set the shit up is you could never actually do them on opposite days. And so you're basically in a situation, catch 22, if you will, where it's like, okay, gotta drop this class, end up failing that class. And then it was at some point in that they cut my funding, is what it was, where I was about halfway through my degree path entirely. And essentially in the process, because I had no job, I had no actual, means to support myself back then, because I was a full-time student, literally living on the little peons that they gave me for tuition from student loans. I was homeless overnight because of those fuckers. And this is why I honestly feel like in my particular case, I don't know the government a goddamn dime at this point, and they can go fuck themselves. Because when you sit there and you turn somebody from a housed person to actually having an apartment or whatever they're living at the time, to homeless overnight because they can't pay their rent that month, they can't pay their fucking phone bill that month, they can't buy groceries that month, etc., etc., you're a bunch of fucking scumbags. And you basically set people up to be fucking, to end up failing like that, is what it is. Where in reality, you should be setting them up to succeed in these environments, not fucking fail in these environments. And now, granted, if I had realized, again, my autism and stuff like that, and the autistic mindset that I have going on, I would have definitely gone on an actual track for a trade school, because I think I would have done well back then, whether it be welding or something else for that matter, because I was looking into welding for a little bit of time as well. And the problem was, again, and I'm not trying to blame like anybody in particular, because I feel like some of the blame does come on myself, is what it is. Not all of it, obviously, because there's a bunch of people in the mix that are to blame for this whole thing. I do blame a lot of my family, honestly, legitimately, because they basically were pushing me. They're like, oh, you're like 24. What the fuck are you doing with your life? I don't fucking know. Why don't you leave me the fuck alone? And I'll figure it out at some point. Maybe I'll go get a job at some point. Maybe I'll fucking just chill out for a little bit. Maybe I'll fucking do what I want to do and live my own fucking life and not let you live it for me, motherfuckers. But no, they wouldn't leave me the fuck alone. And they basically forced my hand to go do stupid shit I didn't want to fucking do to begin with. So, I don't know, man. I feel like calling it down there at this point, honestly, with that shit. Just be like, hey, y'all owe me money for this, man. Because y'all helped fuck me over in this whole situation. Obviously, I would never do that to them because they're all super old, is what it is now. But I don't know. I feel like definitely they, like, in a lot of cases, they did help fuck me over. But again, the college itself will help fuck me over on that one because, you know, I actually was trying to get help. There was nobody to help me, is what it was. There was nothing, dude. There was no, you know, fucking person to be like, okay, I'm your like resident advisor person or whatever here to actually help you with stuff. It's like, no, get fucked, basically. Oh, you're in college now. It's big leagues, bro. Fucking deal with it. Okay, I guess I fail then. Fuck you. I'm not paying anything. Fuck off. And that's the problem with our society in general. And I feel like that's exactly why a lot of people who actually have degrees at this point want student loan forgiveness to be a thing right now. And personally, in my opinion, I don't think they should get it, especially if they have like these gender studies degrees and they actually got the degree is what it is. But yeah, people like me that got fucked over when we were, you know, partway through simply because we ended up failing a class that we should have never even been in to begin with. And then we have our fucking funding cut and are put in a catch-22 situation where they tell, specifically what they told me was back then, they're like, oh, you know, we'll reinstate your student loan money if you actually pass this, if you actually like go and do credit hours or whatever the case be and show us you can pass classes with, I think it was like a C average or a B minus average, something like that. But we're not going to do that until you actually basically pay for the courses yourself and do this shit. So again, they put me in this catch-22 situation where it's like, you have no fucking money to pay for this shit, but yet in order to show them that I can do it, I have to somehow create the fucking money out of thin fucking air and then be able to pass courses for them to reinstate my funding then. And yeah, that's basically why I'm living here again for the past 10 years or so, is because these fuckers fuck me over is what it is, dude. And needless to say, you wonder why I hate fucking government? It's because of shit like that, honestly. That's one of many reasons, obviously. That's one of like about probably I would say at least a good 100 reasons I have right now. Obviously, if you want to talk about the FBI, federal swatting is a big thing there. That would obviously be another reason why I hate the federal government entirely, because they don't understand fucking why warrantless searches shouldn't be a thing, or why the fucking Patriot Act shouldn't be a thing, or why fucking NDAA shouldn't be a thing. And yeah, just a bunch of tyranny bullshit is what it is, dude. But anyway, needless to say, it's a bunch of shit all the way around. And the real problem I have with everything is just the way I was fucked over, honestly. It's bothered me for years now. And knowing that, you know, obviously shit was kind of shuttered at this point for all the lockdown stuff and everything else like that. And it was basically a freeze on student loan stuff is what it is. But knowing that it's going to be starting up again pretty soon here, and knowing I'm basically going to be put back into a situation where I now have to be on a yearly thing is what it is, because I have no income is what it ends up being. And now I'm basically put in that situation. But the problem is, it's not even the people who originally own my student loans now. It's some other fucking company that they basically sold everything out to for a bunch of people. And now I'm having to deal with these assholes. And it's like, or you could just, I don't know, lose the fucking paperwork sometime in there and fuck off with that shit and realize that after over a decade, I'm not going to pay your asses ever, is what it is, because I don't have the fucking financial means to do so. So it's like, write the shit off, dude, seriously. But of course, I'm not going to do that because that's a big thing, right? And we've talked about this before on the channel. The real reason that when you look at the bubbles bursting in this country, whether it be the housing market crash 2008, whether it be our current financial crisis, etc. here, the one bubble that will never fucking burst, obviously the auto industry is pretty close to bursting at this point. One that will never burst, though, is student loans. And why is that? Because they're all owned by the fucking federal government. And so, of course, they wouldn't default on that stuff. And of course, they'll never actually default on the fucking student loan, or sorry, on the debt ceiling negotiation bullshit is what it is, because they know for a fact they don't actually give a fuck about the American people. All these fucking cocksuckers, specifically Kevin McCarthy, fuck him. All these motherfuckers like that dude, they don't actually give a shit about the people, the constituency that they claim to be representing, because they're not. What they're representing is big banks, giant corporations, big oil, big pharma, big agro, fucking big name anything at that point, and they're fucking have some money shoved in their damn pockets from these people, is what it is. You know, Planned Parenthood, fucking other kinds of abortionists out there. People want to bitch about the gun lobby, which doesn't really exist at this point, honestly. But you know what does, though? A bunch of child murderers that go under Planned Parenthood names at that point. You know what does? Fucking George Soros NGOs that pay these motherfuckers off in many cases. So, yeah, needless to say, it's a bunch of shit all the way around, dude. And honestly, I feel like Fight Club had it right, truthfully. You know, it's like set everybody back to zero kind of thing, you know. That's what I feel like needs to kind of be the thing right now. Just fucking the lights go off and then they come back on, but when they come back on, like everything's just reset to zero at this point, honestly. And we'd be so much better off as a fucking nation currently. So, you know, it's like, oh, you know what? $32 trillion in spending and shit like that. Oh, that's just zero now, is what it is. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's the problem, though, is that these people. What's funny to me, too, is that you got people like Janet Yellen coming out here and being all like, oh, America doesn't have enough money to pay its debts currently. It never fucking has, you dumb cunt. We never have had the fucking money to pay our debts in the past, like, 50 fucking years at this point because you dumb motherfuckers. Like, seriously. I think there was one time in my entire life right now, which was basically Bush Sr.'s administration going into Bill Clinton's administration, where we actually had a fucking surplus of money at one point. And why was that? Because good old Ross Perot actually forced the hand of both fucking dickhead Democrats and fucking spineless cunt rhinos to actually do some goddamn budgets for once in this fucking country and realize, oh, if we actually budget shit, we can actually get stuff done for once and have a fucking surplus for once in our goddamn lives. But you know what they haven't done since 9/11? Had any fucking surplus because they keep pissing away fucking money into the bullshit-ass military-industrial complex to where we can sit there and have fucking forever wars like the goddamn fucking proxy war going on in Ukraine and Russia right now, where you look at fucking videos all over the internet right now and you see fucking people doing all kinds of bullshit in fucking Ukraine where it's clearly not a fucking war zone, and yet we're being fucking lied to continuously with this bullshit. And they're sitting there fucking pissing away millions and millions and millions and then turning it into billions and billions and to eventually fucking trillions of dollars into some bullshit ass fucking backup country where Biden, Pelosi, fucking Schumer, etc. all have goddamn direct ties to and have all had fucking family members on boards over there and shit, to where 100% when shit falls in this country, these fuckers are getting on an airplane and having their asses fly over to fucking Ukraine, dude. That's what they're fucking setting up right now. They are setting up their own goddamn private military over there to where they can eventually say, fuck America, and run the fuck over there to their little bitch-ass backup country. And it's a bunch of bullshit entirely, man. I'm fucking sick and tired of it. I think everybody else too, for that matter. But yeah, I fucking had it, man. I really have. I've had it with all these fucking people at this point. And if you're not seeing what I'm talking about right now, you're part of the problem, honestly, in this country. Because there are 100% evil fucking forces going on right now in this nation and across this fucking world right now, where these fuckers are 100% embezzling a fuck ton of money, and they're doing a fuck ton of other stuff at this point. And yet they're showing us what they want us to fucking see with mainstream media and everything else like that, where they're putting up like, oh, but look at Russia, you know, with this bombing attack in the middle of the day or whatever the case be the other day. And it's like, sure. Keep telling yourselves that. So, I don't know. The real problem I have with the left in general, though, going on that whole tirade, is they'll sit there and bitch about Americans' 2A rights, but yet when it came to Ukraine having their citizenry be armed, they're just like, oh, fuck yeah, give them all the guns, and ammo. Like, fuck you fucking hypocrites, dude, seriously. You guys are 100% the fucking problem right there, entirely. And I think, honestly, there is a lot of these motherfuckers that just need to be in prison for the rest of their lives at minimum at this point in history. So, yeah, needless to say, I'm pretty pissed off right now. I'm pretty pissed off. I'm actually pretty tired as well on that one, so maybe that's why this is coming off a little bit more edgy than usual. But I need to change positions here because my fucking leg is hurting like a bitch. Sorry, been sitting in this chair for a while, and the fucking sides of it are hurting my legs right now. So, just sort of digging a little bit. Anyway, where the fuck is that now? Oh, yeah. Debt slavery. So, yeah, needless to say, going full circle back to that. Yeah, everybody's basically has debt slavery in this country right now. If you have any kind of debt whatsoever, whether it be student loan debt, credit card debt, fucking mortgages, property taxes, all that shit like that. And that's the problem right now, right? You have all these people who want to sit there and fuck everybody over, and yet, meanwhile, they themselves are enriching their own asses and their own families, Pelosi, all these people like that, by doing illegal insider trading. Anything that you or I or Martha Stewart would do that would get us put away for years of our lives, if not decades of our lives, but yet they can legally do it because they're all congressmen and senators and stuff. And it's like, how the fuck is that even right, dude? Like, nah, bro. And what's even more disgusting to me, honestly, recently is I forget which one of these cocksucker Democrats talked about it. It's probably a couple of them actually was bitching about like, oh, there's no ethics at all in the U.S. Supreme Court. It's like, says the motherfuckers who are doing insider trading on pretty much a daily, if not hourly basis at this point. And yet you want to talk about ethics, motherfuckers? No, fuck y'all. Fuck y'all. You're disqualified on the fucking spot from this shit. Get the fuck out of here. And you're permanently exiled from this fucking country. How about that? That's what we need to be doing at this point, honestly, dude. Is you kick them out of office and you exile them from U.S. soil forever. Is what it would be. And I think that would be a good punishment, honestly, for many of these people, dude, because it would force their hand. It would force them to go into this weird territorial thing where it's either they would go overseas and happen to be, trying to get citizenship into another country there, overseas or whatever. Or it would be something where they're now living on a boat in international waters for the rest of their life is what it would be then. So either way, it'd be better off for us because it would be like, nah, fuck all y'all. Actually, truthfully, I would say permanently exile them to some islands would be. Maybe that island from Lost, honestly. Let them fight the big old smoke monster things. Seriously, though. I was watching From the other day. It's finally getting good now. But I feel like, unfortunately, with this current season, the last episode there, that dude's little parlor trick was pretty much a one and done. And unless he was able to get the shit back into his system somehow, I don't think he's going to be able to do it again. So, I don't know. I feel like they're definitely slow burning this season because there's a lot. Like I've talked to a lot of people about it and stuff like that, and there's been a lot of people in the comment sections of various things for the episodes and stuff like that, and like different forums and shit talking about it, and they were like, "Yeah, man, there's like nothing going on in like half these episodes this season." They're not wrong, honestly. Like that's the problem. There's like very little that goes on. Like you have like a 45-minute episode or whatever the case be, and maybe like 5 minutes of it actually adds to any part of the actual main story there. And the other, 35, 40 minutes, whatever it is there, is basically just a bunch of fucking filler and bullshit of like just random ass side characters or new characters coming in there for the second season or whatever it is. Just being told to fuck off, basically. And it's like, you could basically stretch that down to like 10 minutes of an episode, man, and then have like 35 good minutes of the episode, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's the problem with writers sometimes is that instead of just, completing the arc a little bit faster is what it is, they want to sit, and I feel like this is the exact same thing with Lost because a lot of the people that wrote for Lost are the same people that are writing for this From show. And so you have the same, people basically don't understand how to shorten it up a little bit kind of thing. And they want to drag it on as long as possible for, 5, 6, 7 seasons down the road or whatever it is then. And it's like, dude, you have so much material there right now. You could do all kinds of crazy shit in the first 2 or 3 seasons and still have enough for like 4 or 5 more seasons after that. because that's the thing. Like you're just scratching the surface with some of these characters of what the fuck is going on with this town. Like seriously, you can't sit here and honestly tell me that you couldn't have like various characters going out and exploring the fucking woods in the middle of the day or whatever the case be, or exploring like some other area of the underground part of the town or whatever in that daytime, to where, you know, even if these creatures are underground and stuff like that, and technically like quote unquote like sleeping or whatever, you could still have them do like the outskirts of like caverns and shit then, and at least figure out like where the fuck their stockpiles would be then. Because I feel like definitely, you know, given the fact that what these things are is what it is, at least what they're showing them are, it's like some kind of demon is what it'll be then. I feel like these would be the kind of creatures that basically are like in the back of a cave, like almost like a bear or something like that, and like its cubs and shit, and they're just basically like will like crawl on each other and stuff, or like some kind of like wolf pack almost, where it's like, you know, you got the mother wolf or whatever, and then it's like all the babies are just like nestled up to her ass is what it'd be then, in like their little pile or whatever. And I think that's what it would be, honestly. Or the same thing with like how big cats sleep and shit like that, where it's like a bunch of them like sleeping like pretty close to each other, or like on each other as like a pile kind of thing or whatever then. And or even just like little kittens for that matter as well. Like I think it'd be something like that, honestly, where it'd just be like this pile of like, you know, creatures would be then. And so you'd have them like over here in this particular place or whatever then, and you could basically explore this other areas would be then. So I don't know. There's also a lot of things that were brought up in the season finale of the first season that they didn't say shit about in the second season yet, which really does bother me and a bunch of other people as well, because it's like, yeah, you have all these people who, you know, like you had the dude and the chick out in the first season there. For those who haven't watched it, obviously, you know, watch it, but little spoiler here. You basically have the dude and the chick out in the fucking woods. You hear like this crazy horn blowing, which I'm pretty sure if we're going to go on this route of the fact that this town is actually some kind of purgatory, I think it was Gabriel's horn blowing, because I think it is going to be like some kind of like angel demon stuff at some point here. And the whole point is, if you're having like Gabriel's horn blow, or like some kind of like, you know, archangel horn, whatever it is there, you know, blowing and stuff. But yet you had other stuff with like this crazy ass like tent monster thing or whatever. And yet they don't explore that shit as what it is in the second season yet. And it's like, yeah, you'd think somebody would be like, okay, what the fuck happened out here kind of thing is what it is then. So I don't know. It's very bothersome, because I feel like it does remind me a lot of Lost, where it's like, you know, you have all these mysteries that you haven't solved yet. And instead of actually, you know, having these glitches and subplots and stuff, and think people are just going to end up, you know, taking it, not going off on you and being like, hey, this is fucking bullshit. Like, why aren't you actually, you know, going back there and addressing these other unsolved answers is what it is then, with actual answers. So I don't know. It is a good show, though. It is a good show. I think it is somewhat compelling. It's definitely got a pretty cool element to it. But yeah, I think there's definitely, like, for me personally, if I was directing it or I was writing it or whatever the case be, there's a lot of like random shit I would have dropped out of every single one of these episodes so far. And you would have had much better, more consistency with like the main characters, and maybe like a little bit of the side characters, like new people and stuff like that, would be a whole thing there. But as somebody pointed out with the early episodes of the second season here, you got the one chick basically like flipping out and being like, oh, but these new people are going to die from the creatures. Yeah, because they're fucking dumb and they're not listening to you. So fuck them. You know, like that's the point. Like this, and the real problem I have, right? It's like they're acting like this particular chick or that particular character or whatever has only been in this place for like a week or two. This bitch has been there for a fucking year now, dude. For 365 plus days of her life when this busload of people comes in there. And yet she's going to act as if like, oh my God, we need to save everybody. Some of these dumb fucks are just going to be dumb fucks and die, man, or they're going to get you killed at some point. Why the fuck would you want to save their dumb asses? No, you're like, hey, creatures, why don't we fucking cut a deal, eat those motherfuckers over there, and leave us the fuck alone for a while is what it is. You know? Like, seriously, like somebody not, like, that's one thing that does bother me, because I was thinking about it the other day, because I was having a weird dream about it is what it is. And I was thinking about that when I kind of woke up, that I'm like, you know, why haven't these townspeople made some kind of fucking deal with these creatures and been like, hey, you know, if somebody new comes in here and we don't actually need them, we'll totally feed them to your asses as long as you fuck off for a while after that is what it is. And just cut some kind of weird deal then. Because the thing is, it's not like they're really feeding them to them at that point, because it's not like they're just like eating them outright or whatever. It's like they're just torturing people to death is what it is, in like the horriblest ways, pretty much. And then, you know, using those like playthings essentially is what it is then, which makes sense if you're some kind of demon. Like you want to have like, you know, fresh meat is what it'll be then. So I don't know. Actually, the one thing that does bother me too as well with this second season there is, I don't care how fucking stupid you are. What kind of fucking dumbass hears people yelling, there are creatures that come out at night, and yet you hear somebody knocking at a fucking door after dark, and they're like, hey, we were on the bus, and your dumbass doesn't, I don't know, pull the curtain back a little bit and confirm that they actually, yes, in fact, were bus passengers and not one of these fucking ass creatures before you open a goddamn door to them. Like, I swear to God, man, if they want to write stupid fucking characters, at least write them in a compelling way and not just have it be, here's the dumbest motherfuckers on earth, and this is why they're here in this weird purgatory place now. Okay, cool, now they're dead again. Because that's what I feel like they did with half of these characters this season so far. And, like, especially that guy. Especially the guy that was in the bar there. And it's like, yeah, these people are just complete morons, is what it is, dude, for real. And that's my biggest problem with the whole thing entirely. But overall, like, again, some of the shit that they've done over these, like, first 6 episodes of the season of, like, 10 episodes, you could have done in, like, 3 episodes, basically. You could have still had, like, another 3 episodes to get shit done. This kind of, honestly, I'll tell you what this reminds me of. It reminds me of Why the Last Man that I did a review on this channel a while ago is what it was. I don't know if it's still up here or not. I think I maybe had to click it off with everything else then when I rebranded everything like that. Last year is what it was. But anyway. So yeah, going back to that though, because I did that whole thing a while ago though. The problem in the real, you know, how Why the Last Man basically shot himself in the foot and was canceled after a season, what it was. Number one, you can't go full Missanders, dude. You can't go full man hate and man bashing and stuff like that and think you're going to have a show after that. That's the first thing. First and foremost. Number two on that whole thing is my biggest pet peeve with that series is they basically took like 4 or 5 episodes for it to get good. Where you should have had it be good within the first episode to 2 episodes. And by that I mean they should have established very early on the whole like Amazonian group of chicks there in like episode 2 or 3, instead of waiting for like, you know, 4 or 5 to go down that road and stuff like that. That would have been number 1 on that whole thing. Number 2 on that whole thing, and this is something they actually showed in that episode where those chicks were at the warehouse. If you want to attract dudes to watch a show, man, nudity is a must. And they did that well, honestly, in that episode. That being said, it should have happened way the fuck farther back before that. It should have happened in like episode 1 or 2, honestly. And the entire point of the matter is, when you have, again, you're like about half the season over already, whatever the case be, and you're just now getting like a good storyline going, that's what destroys the fucking show, man. Because you're basically you have people like, you know, middling around and piddling and everything else like that, and just piss potting and everything like that, you know, and not doing anything really, just meandering essentially. And then you think people are going to come back, you know, week to week and watch that, or like marathon watch is what it is, where you should have had like these established characters from like the get-go basically. And if you had done that, you would have had a better series is what it is. So, and it'd probably still be like season 2 or 3 of that show now. Unfortunately, they didn't do that. They were just, you know, fucking Office, but it is what it really was. And then they were sitting there like bitching and moaning about stuff and being like, oh, but female empowerment bullshit. And it's like, that doesn't work, dude. Especially not when you're shitting on men the entire time. Like, seriously, there was a whole fucking diatribe, and I think it was like episode 1 or 2 of that show, Why the Last Man, where you had a bunch of chicks who were supposed to be like the presidential cabinet or whatever the case be, who were bitching and moaning about like, and this is why men are such shit. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, seriously? Why? Who the fuck wrote this shit? Oh, yeah, that's right. It was a bunch of fucking third wave feminist fucking cunts. That's who wrote that shit. And that's why it fucking failed, dude. And that's why you tell these bitches to fuck off, is what it is, dude. And you have way better writers then. Or for God's sakes, you give the fucking writing to a damn AI. You give it to a chat GPT and stuff like that. They could probably spin out something better for you in like a day than these fucking dumb bitches wrote in the fucking years what it was, dude. Seriously. So, anyway, I don't know. But to go back and reiterate, though, From is definitely a good series, especially the first season. Second season, I think, is a little bit lackluster right now in this first half anyway. But it's definitely starting to get good here in the second half, and I'm hoping that, honestly, like 7, 8, 9, 10 in the next 4 weeks here will be even better. And I'm hoping it ends on a high note, honestly, and not just some like mediocre or like low note is what it is then. Because if they can end on a high note, it'll definitely be a great series going into season 3. And hopefully, even with the writer's strike and stuff going on, they can still produce content is what it is then. And if nothing else, again, have it, maybe just kind of give the AI the fucking like first 2 seasons and see what it comes up with for a third season or something like that, and then go from there. Like, obviously, as much as I don't like AI, like, this is the one time where it could be a decent writer, honestly, for that whole thing. And hell, maybe the fucking robots actually write a better fucking season 3 where it's not a bunch of random bullshit filler is what it is then. And you can actually have like really good stuff going on then. But anyway, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, but like I said, I look forward to the rest of the season. I think there's looking at the synopsis things for it, I think there's definitely going to be some crazy shit that happens in the next 3 to 4 episodes right now. And I think it's going to end on a really crazy note, honestly. And hopefully it'll be very, very good when it does. And I also look forward to the final season of Cobra Kai whenever it starts this. I think it's this summer or like later this coming fall or something maybe. I forget which, but yeah. Definitely look forward to that season. That School Spirit show, if you haven't watched that, it's pretty good. I finished that here a couple weeks ago when it finally finished up then. I thought it was going to be like 10 or 12 episodes, but it was only like 8, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And it was, honestly, I feel like, truthfully, the way that first season ended, it felt like a mid-season finale and not an actual season finale. So I really hope they can bring that back for a second season and not have this writer's strike all fuck that up is what it is then. Because that was a really good series, I think. And the thing with that show was, even like, because we all know that like all these shows always painted like all the gay shit is what it is now. And, just basically shove it down our throats is what it is. The thing with that show was, even though they had like gay characters in it and stuff like that, it wasn't like, constantly like rammed down your fucking throat. It's just like, oh, here's this like 5-minute storyline with this kid who, died and was this gay dude or whatever the case be. And now it's basically him just trying to connect back to his, high school love interest. That's now one of the teachers at the school like 20 years later then. And get like closure is what it basically was there. And it's an interesting little storyline because it does work out well in that writing theorem and stuff like that. It's not like a whole thing where it's like, just 2 dudes like making out or whatever in the corner and stuff like that. Or God forbid, like that fucking Wolfpack show, which I still haven't finished that series because of this shit. It was like episode 1 or 2 of that fucking show. Had nothing to do with any of the fucking werewolf shit going on in that. And you have 2 dudes basically trying to blow each other as like one of the random scenes in that fucking show. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck does this have to do with werewolves, for God's sakes, dude? Oh yeah, that's right, nothing. Nothing at all. But yet you gotta fucking shoehorn that shit in as hard as possible because fucking GLAAD. And that's what it is the other day, dude, seriously. It's fucking GLAAD basically forcing in quotas at this point into all these shows. And really, honestly, if Hollywood was a good place, it would just tell those motherfuckers to fuck off is what it is, man. And be like, we're not doing this crap anymore. Go fuck yourself. We're not overrepresenting your bullshit ass fucking mafia at this point, dude. Because that's what it really is at the end of the day. It's doing overrepresentation of a small ass group of people in this country right now that make up a couple percent at most as a whole set of people, from the L's to the B's to the G's to the T's, etc. And when you get into those subgroups, it's even like smaller and smaller and smaller subgroups then is what it is. So anyway. But of course, Hollywood loves to push it because you have all these sick fucks who are trying to virtue signal and make their small children into these fucking things. And that's why you got that sick cunt, Rachel LeVar, I pronounced her name the other day, the one that played in the Under the Dome show, who was basically calling right wingers terrorists because we're sick and tired of Target trying to target fucking kids with all kinds of sick ass fucking groomer shit is what it is, dude. And guess what, bitch? We win. Our boycott worked. Target has already lost billions of dollars in this whole fucking thing in like the last week or so from this shit. And they have backtracked and backpedaled like a fucking motherfucker right now. And you now have internal emails coming out that basically say, hey, we fucked up. We're not going to admit we fucked up or we're doing this sick ass shit. We're just going to go ahead and take everything out of the stores now is what it is. And it's the same thing with Bud Light's stupid ass fucking Mulvaney thing. It's the same thing with Miller Lite's stupid ass throw away feminist thing. It's the same thing with Cole's bullshit with the fucking, pride onesie things for little kids is what it is, man. Boycotts work. Conservatives and right-wing people and centrists, etc., we put our money where our mouths are. We use our dollar bills to show these corporations that we're sick and tired of their shit, and we can actually change a narrative for once, and we can force their fucking hand on this stuff, and the boycotts work. Keep them up. Keep doing it. And the more and more that these fuckers lose and the billions of dollars that they have to siphon off and the shareholders that they have to call back to and be like, oh, sorry, we done fucked up. You're not going to get nothing this quarter, whatever it is. And when they take over those companies and rebrand them and stuff like that, then that's when we know we've won 100% then. And we start seeing firings across the board of CEOs and all kinds of executives and stuff like that. And you either see these companies go bankrupt or just fail and fall flat on their faces and stuff like that. And we can actually win against the corporate establishment at this point. And it's the same exact thing with those assholes at Chick-fil-A. That fucking douchebag CEO the other day that was bullshitting about fucking basically shitting on white people and stuff like that is what it was, dude. And now you rightfully have conservatives calling for a boycott of Chick-fil-A. And as they fucking should. Because fuck that motherfucking CEO of Chick-fil-A. That dude needs to be fucking fired on the spot right now. And that whole entire company needs to go on a whole fucking press thing at this point. If nothing else, be like, hey, for the next 2 months, we're giving away fucking free sandwiches and stuff like that. And that is the actual answer to what would be an actual boycott against them, would be forcing their hand to basically give away like free food as an apology to Americans at that point for the shit that their fucking dumbass ex-CEO causes what it would be then. And if they're not going to do that, then guess what? They can go bankrupt like the rest of them, and they can lose a bunch of fucking money from people is what it is, dude. Because honestly, their chicken ain't that great, man. It's pretty good. But honestly, if you go to Aldi's and stuff like that and get the chicken breast filet patty things in the frozen food section, they're the exact same thing verbatim at that point. The only difference is you got to do them a little bit different. You got to basically fry them up the right way or whatever the case be, and then put some pickles and stuff on there yourself is what it is then. And get the right kind of bun and stuff. But yeah, you pretty much have a very, very good copy of a Chick-fil-A sandwich then without having to go to Chick-fil-A. And if I'm not mistaken, actually, that other one that I'm talking about, the frozen chicken patties and stuff like that, those particular ones are not as bad as Chick-fil-A's are because Chick-fil-A in their, I think it's their batter base or whatever, added in some of their ingredients now to basically make it like some weird like additive addiction stuff or whatever the case be, which is not in the other shit. So yeah, needless to say, that's why it's better for you. So anyway, that's pretty much where we're at for the day. Hopefully this stream went well. Hopefully everybody, sees where I'm at right now. Just to be clear, everything said today coming under freedom of speech, freedom of press, U.S. Constitution. I have the freedom to say this stuff, and YouTube has no right to strike my channel on that one. So, anyway, that being said, hopefully we'll be back soon. I probably will jump to another account in the next day or two, just because I do want to maybe talk about one more thing starting on June 1st. Here's what it is then. And from there, it would basically just be doing that account for a few days or a few weeks or whatever the case, or probably a few days actually, until the force comes back around, and then we'll jump back to this account maybe or something. But other than that, that's where we're at for the week. That's where we're at for the month. That's obviously where we're at for the day here. And yeah, I think May went very well. I know they're supposed to be. I think if I'm not mistaken, ATF is still trying to fuck off with their pistol brace shit here in the next day or two is what it is. And they can keep fucking off with that bullshit, dude, because people are not going to comply, nor should they. It's unconstitutional. These fucking bullshit ass alphabet agencies have no legal authority to do anything at this point. They're not fucking Congress. They can't write law. They can't enforce law. They have no legal authority to do anything. They are complete fucking oath-breaking sacks of shit, and they should be disbanded and in jail right now for the shit they're pulling at this point. So, anyway. But other than that, that's where we're at for the day. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you all in the next one. Later.